The 18th of March is World Social Work Day, and we wanted to mark this day by recognising the qualities and skills of our social workers within Richmond and Kingston. So we've asked them to put together a film, and I think that you'll find this a very interesting film where people talk very honestly and openly about why they became social workers.
Yes, my name is Sarah Beresford and I'm a Child Protection Conference Chair.
My name is Rachel Payman. I'm a social worker with the Referral and Assessment Team too.
I'm Bob Price and I'm an independent reviewing officer.
My name's Steve Jones and I work as a Child Protection Conference Chair.
My name is Chipodinda and I'm a Child Protection Social Worker.
My name is Adrian Duffy and my role within Kingston is Team Manager for the Fostering Service.
My name is Harpreet Danjal and my role is a Senior Social Worker.
My name is Marcia White and I'm a Senior Practitioner in Richmond Initial Assessment Team.
My role involves chairing child protection conferences and all the stuff that goes around that, which means meeting with families beforehand, writing up the child protection plan. Then I do auditing work as part of that role. I do some work for the local Safeguarding Children Board, and that's pretty much really what my role is.
When there are serious concerns about a child or young person, a decision is made to have a multi-agency meeting involving people who might work with that child, social workers, police, schools and so on, school health. A multi-agency meeting is held to decide how worried we are and whether in fact we think there should be a child protection plan to make sure that the child is safe.
My daily job involves responding to initial concerns that gets raised around a child or young person, and to make that initial contact with families and with other professionals, and to importantly seek the wishes and feelings of children, so they're central to the work that we do, and to complete an assessment to decide what kind of needs those children or young people have.
My main job really is working with looked after children, and it's in respect of making sure they've got proper care plans. So what I actually do is sort of go out, meet the children, chair the looked after children reviews, and then I actually will come back, write it up, make sure that that the sort of plan is actually meeting their needs really. If there are any concerns, then I go back to the local authority and actually make sure that whatever the plan is actually addressed.
My daily job, because I'm a Child Protection Team, I work with children in need, those children that are in need of services. So what we do is we carry out assessments, and when we have got identified needs, we allocate services according to each individual child or family's needs. And also we work with children that are at risk of significant harm. What happens is when there is reasonable suspicion that harm is happening in a family or to a child, and or maybe it's likely to happen in the future, we do a Section 47 investigation under the Children Act 1989, and once it's proved that there's harm, then the next step is we will look at maybe later on put the child on a child protection plan, and within that plan we also provide services that suit that kind of circumstance.
My daily role within the fostering service is to supervise the work of a team of fostering social workers to ensure the support they give to Kingston foster carers is of a high standard in order that Kingston children can be well looked after.
My daily job involves, we're a frontline team, so we deal with child protection inquiries that come into our service. So we go out on home visits, meet with children and young people, and basically make sure that they're safe and offer supports to their families if they're needed.
Initial assessment team is the duty part of the service, so the information comes from the SPA team, and we carry out the assessments, whether it's section 17 or 47.
Okay, I became a social worker sort of by default actually, because I had applied to do law, and I didn't get the grades that I wanted to. And then I decided to have a year out while I reconsidered what my options were. I was aware of what the social work role was because my mother was a social worker, although she was in education. And I got a job temporarily to try and get some money in working in a kitchen in a hospital for people who had very severe learning disabilities. And I was so shocked and horrified by how I felt that people were being treated that sort of gave me resolve to try and do something, because I was sort of 19 and very idealistic. And so I applied to do a social work degree, and that's how I came into social work. But quite early on, I realised that I actually wanted to work with children. I didn't really want to do this generic work, and I didn't want to work with the elderly. I wanted to work with children, and that's where most of my work's been.
I kind of came upon it really. I'd finished at university. I got a job in administration in children's services, and so I was kind of working alongside social workers. And I became interested in the work they did, and it sort of seemed something that I enjoyed doing myself. So I became a social work assistant, an unqualified social worker, gained some experience, and was clear that I enjoyed it, and so I wanted to train up as a social worker.
I chose social work because I had done quite a number of roles in different areas before. So, for example, I worked in a school, I worked in a court, and I realised there's so much more still to learn about people, and so I came to social work because I still wanted to learn more and try and use all the skills I've learnt in lots of areas in one place.
Started in the police after I left school, and then very quickly moved into working in children's homes, a variety of children's homes, and then moved on later on to do my social work training, and then to actually move into sort of field work. So initially sort of generic field work, and then specialising really with children and families.
I've always had this passion of helping people, and I've always realised that if in life you do something that you love, no matter how challenging it is, you always enjoy it.
My career in social work didn't commence until I was 30. I had a former life before social work as an industrial painter and decorator. I began to do some work for the probation service in Staffordshire, supervising young offenders, and it was my discussions with them and their experiences of coming through the care system that motivated me to want to make a difference for young people who were struggling.
I always wanted to make a difference with young people and families, and feel that I get to fulfil that every day, really.
I chose social work as a career. I did used to run a culturally specific nursery, and one of our children died, and an investigation. We didn't have a child protection plan, and so I realised what child protection was, and that's how I got interested in social work.
The main challenges of my current work are managing the conferences so that we actually achieve what we need to achieve, and that we're thinking all the time about getting a good outcome for children. Sometimes the meetings can be quite distressing for parents, so that's a difficult thing to manage sometimes. And also part of our work is very much about quality assurance, so recognising that this isn't a challenge actually, but recognising when there's good practice, but also recognising when things aren't going in a timely manner for the child, and having to raise that with our colleagues in the social work teams. That can be quite challenging.
I mean, I think there's challenges to social work generally. Resources tend to not get any better. Resources tend to continue to be squeezed. I think in terms of my job as a Child Protection Conference chair, I think the challenges are to try and get good outcomes for children, and also trying to get good outcomes for families in circumstances where there are serious concerns about parenting. And it's quite difficult sometimes, I think, to get the balance right between being supportive but also being very clear and focused on what you need to get better. And it's a difficult thing for parents to engage in sometimes.
Time management, responding to quite diverse needs, trying to meet expectations, I think trying to be the best you can be in quite limited, time frames, limited knowledge. Often you realise actually you know very little, and there's so much more to learn and to find out, and you have to do that in a short time frame. So they're my current challenges.
I think the challenges of being a social worker are the sort of usual things, I suppose, and that is that it's about credibility, first of all. It's about actually working with children and families in a professional and honest way. Obviously, there is quite a lot of conflict, I think, at times in the role, and it's about managing that in a way that actually addresses that without moving out sort of professional zone, really. The other challenges, I guess, really are the fact that you're obviously dealing with some very difficult situations, and it's about actually keeping a level head and trying to be as objective in what you're doing.
The current challenges, I find it sometimes because there are a lot of processes, a lot of child protection processes, and sometimes we devote most of our time doing paperwork, following procedures, but I think the main challenge is time we spend with the children and their families, because sometimes when you go there, we don't have enough time to assess what's really needed, and we can sometimes we can just get information that is not made detailed because we don't have more time to spend with the children, to do more direct work. It's not about asking questions. Sometimes you ask questions they don't answer, but sometimes it's to play with them, play therapy, to observe as well. And by spending time with them, you pick out a lot of stuff. When you are playing with them, you throw questions in there and ask them, and they will feel free to open up and tell you, rather than when you just pose direct questions to them.
I came to Kingston in December 2013, and obviously the authorities in a time of great change, so the preoccupation for myself at the moment is ensuring my staff are informed about the change and supported through it, and they communicate the need for change and the positive benefits of changing Kingston to foster carers and to all our customers within the fostering service.
Emotionally, it's a big challenge, I would say. It's the nature of the work can often be quite difficult. We often deal with abuse, physical, sexual abuse, and that can be a challenge.
Ooh, the current challenges of the job are absolutely vast. There's just so many different things. You've got, changing trends. You've got, the challenges of trying to get people to understand what we're worried about, and I find that to be one of the biggest challenges, getting parents to understand what the actual real concerns are.
Okay, the most important qualities I think that are needed by a social worker are that you've got to be resilient, you've got to care about what you do, you've got to care about actually making things better for the children who you're working for. You've got to be fairly articulate, although I'm actually coming across as fairly inarticulate in this interview, I feel. You've got to have good writing skills, you've got to have compassion, you've actually got to want to really come and try and make a difference and care about what you do. And you also have to be quite, well, I think I've said resilient already, but sometimes you're coming across very difficult situations, so you're having to think on your feet and sort of manage those effectively. Because a lot of the families that we work with, a lot of the parents that we work with do have enormous personal issues, and they can be alcohol and drug issues, which means that they can be unpredictable. So there's many qualities I think that you need to be a social worker.
I think different people bring different things to do the job, and I think that's one thing to say at the beginning, that there are lots of different ways of being a social worker. I think individually people tend to rely on what are the natural parts of their personality. So some people can use humour, and it's very important to use humour, but in a respectful and in an appropriate way. Other people might be very focused and organised in their thinking and able to communicate their thinking to other people. I think you've got to be organised. I think you've got to be interested in people's stories. I think you've got to be certainly, you know, to a degree sort of empathic. And actually, you've got to be quite organised with your time, because there's always going to be more work than you've got time to put it into. So you've got to be organised a bit as well.
For me, I think the most important qualities of being a social worker are around communication. I think you need to be able to communicate with a wide range of people. I think you need to have quite open ears and be able to listen to other people and take on board what other people think and feel. I think you also need to be quite sincere in your own judgment, and you obviously making a judgment based on lots of different information. I think you need to have experience in working with people, and that's one of the reasons why I came into it, because I felt that I could offer some of those things.
And I think the sort of qualities to be a good social worker will be, I'd say, being open and honest with people. You know, actually, it's important that when you're dealing with children and families, it's important that actually you have to be robust at times. You actually have to make sure that people understand that it's actually children's needs that you're addressing, and that they need to come first. So I think all those things are important, but obviously I think what goes along with it for me is actually doing it, with a sense of humour at times. Because I think without that, you can quickly get into a very sort of a vicious way of working, really.
I think, well, social work is a whole helping profession, and I think for someone to help someone, you need to have empathy. You need to understand their problems, and empathy is whereby you put yourself in their shoes. There was a parent who told me that, Chico, if you walk a mile in my shoes, you understand how I feel. So if you walk in their shoes, you actually understand how they feel, and to give them that respect, that they are the ones who are the expert of their problems. They will give them the power to empower them to explain and be confident and trust you. So if you have empathy, they trust you, you build rapport and you build relationships. If you don't have relationships with service users, you can't do anything. They'll close down on you. They'll see the system as negative. So you are there to create empathy. So that's a value base. And also to practice in an anti-discriminatory and unoppressive way, because we deal with people who are vulnerable, with various disabilities, parents who are victims of domestic violence, and they are very vulnerable. So we need to empower them and make sure that we don't push them in an oppressive way, so they feel empowered and open to discuss issues with us.
The important qualities for social workers, I think, are interpersonal skills and passion. If you're good with people and passionate about people and want the best for people, and within my role, want the best for children, then you're well on the way to having what you need to make it in social work.
Good listener, good report writing skills, definitely be able to take information and analyse it, and also be, there is an element of the job that is being an investigator, so you do have to ask lots of questions, and sometimes that can be quite difficult. So it is about being able to compose those questions appropriately, really.
Oh my goodness, lots and lots of different special qualities. I would say patience, understanding, an interest in, in the human condition, a desire to correct, keep children safe, and to help families to be able to stay together.
Am I glad I made the decision to be a social worker? On a good day, yes, but I have to say sometimes there are times when you think, why on earth am I doing this? But I think overall it's such an interesting, different job. No two situations are the same, and it's really challenging, and I like that. So yes, I think so.
I think that's a really hard question to ask somebody who's kind of at my age, really. I mean, I'd say to you, yeah, I think it's, I guess the measure is, do you still enjoy it, and are there still new things to enjoy and to learn? And on that basis, yeah, I really enjoy it, and I'm glad to be still doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I made the choice I came to social work. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm glad I chose to stay in social work. It's obviously a profession with very large salaries and very good working hours. No, it's something that's certainly given me a lot of fulfilment over the years, and I still feel that I'm doing a good job and making sure that children's needs are met within the family setting, really.
I am excited. I'm a newly qualified social worker. It's been a year now, but I've never regretted it.
I changed my career 25 years ago, and it's the best thing I ever did. The first day I worked in a residential children's home. I worked in residential children's homes for 10 years before joining fostering and adoption. It was one of those road to Damascus moments. I'd found what I wanted to do in life, and I've loved every day since.
I am definitely glad that I became a social worker. I don't regret it. I feel that I get to make a change and a difference for children and their families.
There are days when I feel really, really pleased about it, and there are other days when I think, oh my goodness, why did I do this? So it's quite, it's up and down. It depends on the day.